Hello, I'm Zalia Strzemska and you're watching Press Corner on this bright Sunday morning. In this program, we look at current events from various vantage points, letting our audience reach their own conclusions. Today, I am joined by Piotr Drabik, political reporter Fact, Magdalena Baran, editor-in-chief Liberté, Jacek Żakowski, columnist Collegium Civitas, and Jakub Biernat, journalist Belsat. Good morning, delighted to have you with us.
Morning.
So, of course, our first topic will be Bulgaria, because Bulgaria is holding parliamentary elections on Sunday, that is today. This is the seventh such vote in a little over 3 years. Deep divisions on the Bulgarian political scene make the formation of a stable coalition nearly impossible. So take a look at our report, and then we'll move on to our discussion.
Negotiations aiming to form a coalition government following the previous June elections failed, resulting in a caretaker cabinet and early elections set for October the 27th. 6 political groups represented in the Bulgarian parliament are still unable to bridge their disagreements.
I have been asking since last night, who is this candidate for prime minister? Today, I'll say I support him, but they won't tell us, I'm sure. The offer is for others. And I tell you, they don't want to have a government. Nobody but us wants to have a government.
A series of elections has depressed turnout, which reached just 33% in June compared to 52% in 2017, before the political crisis began. Parties are now struggling to convince their supporters to show up at the polls.
Just 4 months ago, we were again campaigning, talking to people. We are witnessing a total breakdown of statehood. We are witnessing a total disillusionment, an unprecedented low voter turnout, and that is why our first call, our first plea to you is vote.
Political chaos and disillusionment with mainstream parties led to a rise in support for the nationalist Revival Party. The group represents an isolationist foreign policy stance.
If you do not go to vote, you give war a chance. On Sunday, we will not just be choosing who will govern us. We are going to choose between war and peace, because we have a government and we have a mindset to create a new government that has no problem involving us in a war. Whether in one case, we support the alleged victim, as in the case of Ukraine, or in the other case, we support an outright aggressor, as in the case of Israel.
Opinion polls suggest that the Sunday vote will result in a distribution of seats similar to that resulting from June elections. A recent survey shows that only 10% of Bulgarians have trust in the integrity of the electoral process. This is the lowest percentage in the world. Bulgarian political crisis seems likely to continue for some time.
And this is something that I would like to start with. Bulgarians seem disillusioned with what is happening in the country, so everyone is expecting a low voter turnout. So, Magdalena, do you think that they lost hope at this point?
Well, when we listen to Bulgarian voices, yeah, they lost hope, and we expect a wave of. We had a wave of protests, and we have this party that, in fact, Trifonov, that in fact grow on the wave of protests as a protest party or anarchic party, anti-system party, and right now I know some Bulgarians who would tell you, yeah, this is our hope because they represent at least a kind of spirit of change. But when you have a Bulgaria, as we know, so the country that first went through the transition in the 90s, in fact, having the very, maybe not the very same system, but keeping the oligarchic and connected with the elite system. Then after 10 years, you have appeared GERB, one of the party that won by Boyko Borisov, so the former prime minister, that won the previous elections in the June, the 9th of June. So just 3.5 months ago. So what do we expect? We expect, I think, more chaos, but there's one thing that is maybe a kind of a blessing, because one of the previous governments prepared a small reform of the constitution, because previously the Bulgarian constitution allowed the president to choose anyone he wanted to be to become a prime minister in this temporary government and form the whole cabinet also. So again, it was not even restoration, but still this elite oligarchy business connection government. In a country in which you have the highest poverty in the European Union, the lowest standard of life, where people do not trust, have no trust in a justice system, when you have one of the highest corruption you can imagine in Europe, and a country that still have some hopes or ambitions. First is Euro, then is Schengen, but having what they have right now, it seems to be impossible, even if GERB will make another step. But in fact, there's no hope. Just to be back to this reform, right now the president cannot choose anyone he wants. Just he can choose among the highest officials, so representatives of different institutions, including the National Bank, including the chief of the Constitutional Court, so on, so on. So there are a limited number of people that can be chosen in the temporary government. And just last remark about Bulgarian constitution, it's insane because there is no maximum time given for negotiations for political parties. But if they will decide who will be a prime minister, he or she would have just 7 days to form a government. So this is in fact insane.
Right, and you've mentioned a very interesting figure, Boyko Borisov, because he was the one ousted in 2020 because of corruption, and now he's again a very prominent politician. How is that possible?
Well, let me come back to Samuel Huntington and his famous lines separating Western Christian countries and the Eastern Orthodox countries. Bulgaria is a very good example that, I'm not very much fan of Huntington, but in this case, it shows that Orthodox countries hardly fit to democratic capitalism. And this is not decided. You have Romania, which is also Orthodox, but another way, connected to the West, politically, culture, aspirations, Western aspirations. And on the other hand, you have Bulgaria, which used to have Eastern aspirations, very close to Russian political tradition with Tsar, not the king, and so on and so on. So I think when you ask how could it happen, I would say, well, it had happened. And the problem is what we are talking about. Are they able to overcome these obstacles? Everybody can change. Poland has big problems with democratic capitalism, especially on the East when Orthodox influences are stronger. This is important. But I still believe that people can change, can learn, and can profit from what they learn. So yes, these cultural obstacles are, in my opinion, this is not coincidence. This is not bad luck. This is cultural obstacle which is major. And the other problem is that European Union was so optimistic for years that it postponed these cultural factors. In 90s, people used to believe that you can install democratic capitalism like in countries like Iraq, for example, which it was great, fantastic, very humanitarian, but it was absolutely, fundamentally wrong. So remember about long-lasting, because it's important still in politics.
But we have Romania, right, which joined the EU together with Bulgaria in 2007, and they're doing much better.
I guess in this case, the forming of democracy in a Western country was a very long process. it was a battle. Democracies sometimes were installed, then there was a retreat from democracy to autocratic movements, and so on. There were also a group of interests, as we understand it, in a class system. Yes, so socialist parties, conservative parties, and so on. And in Bulgaria's case, democracy fall on their head like out of nowhere. There were no almost democratic opposition during the communism, and now we have parties that are out of identity, in fact. So people don't know why they should vote for them, in fact, if they don't represent anybody, in fact. So this is the big problem, and we see that after this enthusiasm, as you said in the beginning, in the 90s, and after Bulgaria joined the EU, now we see regress in the democratic aspirations, form of government, and so on. So, yeah, this is the big problem, and generally it's hard to say why in Romania it's better. In Poland, we know that we have long democratic traditions, and our parties are quarreling terribly, but at least they have identity. So the voters know what to vote. In Bulgaria, it's different.
Piotr, would you like to add anything?
I think we need to understand how important in this some kind of spirit of Boyko Borisov, over the Bulgarian politics, We talk about this person from the last decades even, and he's still active in the Bulgarian politics. And if Bulgaria think about the change, need to find a new leader, democratic opposition leader, like in Hungary when Peter Magyar, now his party trying to fight with the Fidesz, and as I remember in the last polls have a little bit majority over the Fidesz, so it's showing how it works very well if people after the political crisis, after the political some kind of like the black years of the democracy, see some of the new leader. But also I want to talk about the Turkish and Russian pressure of on the Bulgaria, because from what we see from the history, Russia is not, there was not enemy for Bulgarians at all. So we see for many Bulgarians, Russia is a natural ally.
Russia liberated Bulgaria in the 19th century, and it's quite funny for Polish people because they are, you can find there the statues of generals that in Polish history were considered as mass murderers, and then they are liberators, and it's quite...
And also we need to remember in this election in Bulgaria also ran the Turkish origin party representing the Turkish minority, which also have the influence on the Bulgarian interior policy. So we talk about the EU country, which is basically in very deep political crisis, and this election show how big this crisis is. So maybe we will observe the new election in the next month, and this crisis will be bigger and bigger. For example, Poland in 20s, in the last century, also changed the government like month by month.
And what happened then?
What happened then? So we don't need to think that it's something outside of us. This is the country which is our ally in EU, and we need to understand how important to be that the Bulgaria need to keep this democratic line.
Right, so I mean, we have to wait for the results. Very important day today for Bulgarians. I guess the voter turnout will be another crucial issue. So let's leave it at that and move on to our next topic, which is equally exciting, the BRICS summit. So the BRICS group held a summit this week in the Russian city of Kazan. The leaders of the emerging economies that make up the bloc highlighted their growing dissatisfaction with Western-dominated financial structures. So, what are some of the key takeaways from the BRICS summit? And Piotr, perhaps you'd like to start.
Of course, we see that the Vladimir Putin, which is basically war crimer, shake hands many world leaders. We observed that the president of China, prime minister of India, but president of Brazil not participate in this summit, also showing this BRIC BRICS organization is not very strong like NATO or G7 group, which is basically many experts, many analysts trying to put at the same level. And very important is what of course, Vladimir Putin talked about the war in Ukraine, and he put effort to showing to the world, especially to the global south, that okay, maybe we have the war in Ukraine, but we need to build anti-Western coalition, which is basically trying to rival with the G7. And the problem is that after 5th of November, of course, it depends on the result of the US election, we will observe maybe that Donald Trump could rival with this BRICS, with this China, Russia, global south, yeah?
Actually, actually to explain what BRICS is and perhaps shed more light on the issue, we have a report. So let's take a look at this one.
BRICS, an idea developed 2 decades ago to describe the growing economic clout of China and other large emerging markets, is now a major bloc that accounts for 45% of world's population and 35% of the global economy. Much attention at the summit was dedicated to the war in Ukraine, and in the Middle East, there were no signs that anything specific would be done to end either conflict.
We should come forward together to form a stabilizing force for peace, strengthen global security governance, and explore solutions to hotspot issues.
Appearing alongside BRICS leaders at the summit was UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who called on the Russian leader to agree on a peace deal. His appearance at the meeting led to condemnation from Ukraine. President Zelensky has even refused to meet with Guterres.
We need peace in Ukraine, a just peace in line with UN Charter, international law, and General Assembly resolutions.
The Russian leader accused the West of trying to stem the growing power of the global South with what he called perverse methods.
One example of this is Ukraine, which has been used to create strategic threats for Russia, ignoring at the same time our vital interests, fair concerns, and infringement of rights of Russian-speaking people.
The summit in Kazan was attended by leaders or representatives of 36 countries. Some voices perceive it as a failure of US-led efforts to isolate Russia over its actions in Ukraine.
So Magdalena, I saw your reaction when we've mentioned Antonio Guterres attending this BRICS summit. So do you think it was a political blunder for him to be there?
Oh, well, this is something that, awakes my other personality, my second leg, I would say, because I deal with the philosophy and the ethics of war. And this is something that, when I heard Antonio Guterres first being there, we heard voices that he should stand down, especially after him taking pictures with Putin, shaking hands with Putin. And when he didn't react to what Putin said, that we have the great family of nations, but there are families, unfortunately, in which we have violence. But when I heard Guterres speaking about the just peace for Gaza, just peace for the Ukraine, at the front of the person who, in fact, is has a
wanted by the ICC, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. The warrant from the ICC as a committed as a person who committed a war crime, crime of war and crime against humanity, and how you can talk about the idea of a just peace with Putin right now, and with what other countries that, in fact, in this new geopolitical scenario that we have, supports Putin. We need to underline also other things, because Guterres is one thing, but we had also Erdogan there, so the president of Turkey. And Erdogan, as we know, Turkey is already waiting 25 years at the vestibule of the European Union. And right now, Turkey is, of course, turning in the side of BRICS. But there was another interesting person there, and this is important from European but also from war point of view, because there was just a few days ago, Donald Tusk met the Serbian president in Serbia. But at the BRICS summit, we had also the vice prime minister of Serbia, who in fact said there openly that BRICS should become, and already became, another door for Serbia, that it might be an alternative scenario for joining the EU. And please, we need to have in mind that Serbia is waiting already 12 years as a candidate country. So some time ago, I had a huge discussion in an ILF group, so liberals in European Parliament, about our vision of EU enlargement, but also about how to change our definition of the EU perspective. What does it mean, and should we have some more deadlines, and how to describe those perspectives much better to not to push countries like Serbia into the arms of Russia, for example, even if Serbia, like Bulgaria, is rather pro-Russian in heart, I think. Okay.
I think that they want to be sort of involved in both, right? I mean, they're an EU candidate, and then of course they're considering BRICS. So
his voice was really strong there.
But then Vučić said that they are a candidate for the EU membership. So perhaps we can start here.
What can I say? This is a big success for Putin, of course. As we saw in this video, it was the place where he could express his paranoia over Ukraine, of course, and this is terrible. And of course, for his internal politics, this is huge success as well. He can present himself as a not isolated person, but the leader who is shaking hands with and inviting the great leader of the world. But from the point of view of the outcome, specific outcome of this summit, in the declaration about Ukraine, these countries didn't support Putin too much. It was just short line about Ukraine that it must be settled down according to international law. Also, there was a question of this international financial system that Russia is trying to create facing the Western sanctions. And of course, the bigger countries and the most powerful in BRICS, like China and India, are reluctant over that, because really it's not in their interest, to make this big revolution. So we see that Russia in this case is a weaker partner for sure, and we have to remember about that.
Right, and I mean, you've mentioned China and India, and it seems that their relationship is warming up. Jacek, would you agree with this?
We'll see. I'm not sure. But I would not be so critical towards Gutierrez. We are not so critical when Netanyahu goes to Washington and meets the American president.
I was.
Yes, but not general mood. Mm-hmm. Well, we must remember he's the head of international organizations, including really awful states, not only Russia. And he meets these giants. And when he went to Kazan, he said a peace must be reestablished. Everybody understands what it means in case of Ukraine to reestablish peace. So I think we must consider it as part of determination, or his determination, to restore peace, to civilize international relations, and so on and so on. And remember that in Kazan, I met, unfortunately, more than a half representatives than a half of global population. This is global majority. I mean, not only by numbers, by number of people, but also economically, extremely strong, and politically. They influence not only these countries, but the majority of Africa. So what would it be if Secretary General of United Nations would not go there? It would mean this is against the United Nations. The very idea is we are together to try to civilize our relations. And from the very beginning, Secretaries General of United Nations used to meet with first secretaries of Communist Party in Russia, in China, in Vietnam, in countries where a lot of crimes against humanity were committed every day. So, well, don't be so easy. Don't go this easy way. He has very difficult job in the time of destruction of international order, and he tries to do his job.
Mm-hmm. But he could went to Kiev before the
but yes, yes.
Switzerland,
but
the
he
peace
could
summit.
go to Jerusalem as well. It was not invited. So, well, this is not so easy. I mean, the world is extremely difficult and complicated and risky now. So, if somebody tries to civilize politics, we should rather be fan of this action than to criticize it so heavily.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, one point. Okay, I partly agree, especially that when we talk about so-called just peace, one of the conditions of the modern just peace is also the restoration of bonds, restoration of the relations and rebuilding of these relations between countries and within the society of those countries also. So, yeah, about building a bond, about making some relations possible for the future, yeah, I would agree. But it also, for me, it was really disgusting how he behaved, because he shown really warm relations, and he didn't have to do that. And if he didn't, and for me it was a problem that he didn't go, decided not to go to Switzerland to the peace summit, where he was invited. If he would like to talk to both sides of conflict, to meet the leader of one and second country, and not even visiting Zelensky in Kiev, meeting Zelensky in Switzerland was a better choice, I think.
Sure.
One short point. What we see after this summit in Kazan, we see that still BRICS is not very strong bloc. We see that the China have completely different approach, completely different point of view. Russia trying to build some kind of support bloc over this aggressive policy. India trying to did money with West, with East, with South, with North, with everyone. So, of course, you know, we don't need to afraid the BRICS is our, I don't know, competitor now, but maybe in the next decade, we don't know.
Definitely something to watch, and with this we'll conclude our conversation and move on to our very last topic, and this one pertains to Poland. Well, perhaps the most divisive issue in Polish politics over the last decade. In 2010, the Polish presidential aircraft crashed near the Russian city of Smolensk, killing all 96 people on board. Among the victims were the then President Lech Kaczyński and his wife Maria. It was an unbelievable tragedy which prompted widespread discussions and various conspiracy theories. Now, Poland's defense ministry has filed 41 cases with prosecutors alleging misconduct linked to the activities of a special subcommittee investigating the crash. And this will be our next topic, so let's take a look at our report.
In April of 2010, a plane carrying Polish President Lech Kaczyński and 95 other people, including many high-ranking officials, crashed near Smolensk, Russia. The official report concluded that the cause of the crash was a combination of difficult conditions and pilot error.
Do tej katastrofy doszło wskutek
The crash occurred as a result of exceeding the minimum altitude allowed by regulations during descent in conditions that did not allow visual reference with the ground, and starting the go-around procedure too late.
umożliwiały wzrokowy kontakt z ziemią.
Some politicians from the Law and Justice Party, which helped Lech Kaczyński win elections, had a different theory. Chief among them, Antoni Macierewicz, alleged that the crash was a result of Russian actions, a deliberate attack. Kaczyński's strong anti-Russian stance was alleged as Moscow's motive. The crash and the subsequent investigation fueled the flames of political conflict in Poland.
No, we were not in such a polarized situation before Smolensk. Smolensk is the beginning of a big battle within Poland among tribes.
Macierewicz led another group reinvestigating the crash at the time when Law and Justice Party was in power. This group's report backed Macierewicz's attack theory. When Law and Justice Party lost the election last year, the new government launched an investigation into his investigation. Its conclusions stated that Macierewicz pushed to have his thesis validated and broke the law while conducting his investigation.
Ponieważ nie dość, że nie brali w niej udziału żadni eksperci.
Not only did no experts with a proven track record in investigating air accidents sit on the subcommittee, expert reports commissioned from actual specialists were either classified or their conclusions were manipulated.
Osób, specjalistów.
The Polish Defense Ministry now recommends that Macierewicz, as well as other officials, be charged for overreach of authority, negligence, and forgery.
800 stron raportu.
These 800 pages of the report also form the basis on which to take disciplinary measures and open legal proceedings. Reports to the prosecutor's office based on this document will be drafted and submitted by the ministry.
Macierewicz's attack theory is outright dismissed by current authorities. It does not enjoy significant support outside Law and Justice's voter base, and even among the party's voters, relatively few back it.
So perhaps we could discuss the whole issue chronologically, and I wanted to ask you if you think that the Smolensk investigation was warranted in the first place. Piotr, perhaps you'd like to start.
We have a situation when Polish government in the previous 8 years, between 2015 and 2023, support the conspiracy theory about the Smolensk air crash. And we need to really understand that there is no major evidence which the previous government show to support this conspiracy theory. But at the same time, we have, for example, Donald Trump, which also spreading a lot of conspiracy theory. And many support of them don't think about this is true or not, just taking, okay, what Trump say, this is true. And still we see that many of the Law and Justice supporters believe that there was not the normal air crash. And what we see now, of course, the current government using this sub-community by the Antoni Macierewicz, of course, for some political reason, because it's really easy to show to the supporters that they break the law and so on. But at the same time, still, if you look to the whole general public opinion polls, like 1/3 or maybe 1 of 4 Polish societies say there was no normal air crash.
Well, it was an unprecedented situation. I mean, we have to admit that. So what is your take on this?
What can I say? I can say that if you go to, for example, Ukraine, Georgia, and you ask people what happened in Smolensk, all of the people say that President Kaczynski was killed by Russians, because for them it's obvious that it's not taking into consideration their relation with Russia, how Russia is working outside. I mean, I don't know, poisoning of Skripals, and so on and so on. All of the secret service activities that they are doing in the West. And for these people, it's obvious that it wasn't a normal crash. Of course, in this case, Polish government had a very big problem. This government who was at power at the time, to investigate the crime, because Russians are tricky, absolutely, in this case, and they are playing their game always. And then the biggest problem of Poland, that there was no any kind of objective commission that could be accepted by the both sides of the political problems. Of course, we can think who is who is guilty about that, which side is more guilty and less guilty, but both sides of Polish political system, they were playing also their games. So this is the situation that I guess would last almost forever in the Polish history, that no one will say what is the truth in the end.
Right, but you're saying that it was politicized from the very beginning and that there was no genuine desire to get to the bottom of this.
I would say that. Even before the President Kaczynski take off to Smolensk airport, it was politicized.
Well, so let's fast forward to present day and what is happening now. So do you think that this investigation by the Defense Ministry could put an end to this issue or reignite it anew?
No, it will last forever because it's magic. Yes, it's about emotions, not informations. And we live in time of conspiracy theories all over the world, and so this kind of also. Well, but what is important for the future, not for the past, is the figure, the person of Antoni Macierewicz himself. There are extremely many informations about his special connections with Russia. And when you observe what he was doing for the last, say 50 years, it was always in the best interest of Russia. Well, there are books about Russian spies and operatives around Macierewicz himself. So now when you look at this conspiracy theory about explosion on the plane, it's also covering the problem of Russian officials operating with the plane when he was coming to landing. And this is a major problem. This is nothing about in this report because it was about something else. And we still have to decide or determine or to learn why so many wrong informations were provided to pilots in these planes by Russians. This we don't know. We only know that for sure there was no an explosion in the plane, but we still don't know what was the intention of Russians, and we still don't know to whom loyal is Antoni Macierewicz. And these two cases, I think, will grow and last with us for a very long time. I hope Macierewicz will be arrested pretty soon, and there are some signs it's possible at least. But we don't know whether the government or the prosecutors will decide, will be brave enough, because it will be huge political problem. He's very popular in some groups, like he has fans like 5 to 10% of Polish population. So one can easily imagine what will happen if he will be arrested.
Magdalena, I know you want to say something.
Yeah, I will start from Macierewicz, but I have to tell you first that for me, Smolensk is a case of personal history and personal emotions connected with Smolensk and with few people that die in this catastrophe, including the person who was a really good friend and kind of a father for a group of me and my colleagues where we were students.
I'm very sorry to hear.
So it was for us, it was like a cold shower, and it is one of those families. His family is one of those families who was really, I would say, in the worst condition because of the what Macierewicz did. I'm talking about Andrzej Sahiusz-Skomski and his daughter Iza, who's a friend of mine, and professor of mine when I was at a university, and we were befriended really closely. And this is one of the families, and I observed the family and the tragedy of the family going step by step to whatever Macierewicz was doing with those families from the opposition mainly. And right now, when I saw the 41 cases, and most of the cases, I think that there's 31 against Macierewicz, something like
24.
that. 24. Okay, sorry. Against Macierewicz, I'm really keeping my fingers crossed to see him arrested. Because of the tragedy of these people, but also I would like to see, as you say, this is a political case, what kind of political scenario we'll have. Because first, arresting Macierewicz before, and it will happen before the presidential election in Poland, what impact it will have. It will have on the elections, on the person that, which person will be chosen by Kaczyński to start as a law and justice candidate. This is one thing. But what is even more important for me is what we as a society are able to do, how to deal with the 8 years of law and justice governing. And right now with this report, is it any possibility, again, to try to find a platform on which we can meet and we can talk. And how to do it, I'm not even talking about the people in my age, but when I talk to my students and we go through the conspiracy theories each year, and for most of my students, Smolensk is, and they consider it to be a conspiracy theory. And we have a really interesting clash with students from the Ukraine that started to attend my classes, because for them, for most of them, it was exactly as you said.
Yes,
it
yeah.
was it was a Russian
This
job.
is Russian style.
Exactly,
Yes.
this is a Russian style thinking, Russian style of doing.
No,
But I can see
I
in
think
this,
that-
just let me finish, in this youngest generation, I still have some trust in Gen Z and even younger, because they're able to be much more open, maybe because Smolensk happened just years ago, and for them it's a history, but it wasn't their presence.
But I wouldn't say that this is a Russian way of thinking. It's rather that Russian can do such a thing.
Oh yeah,
simply.
in this sense.
In this
both.
sense, that it's not problem, and we see throughout the history many of killings and so on and so on. So this conspiracy theory has some, let's say, base that we have to discuss as well.